This story is called Cannonball Chris. It's written by Marzollo, and the illustrations were by Blanche. It's about a boy who wants to do a cannonball in the deep end, but he's afraid when the water's above his head, and he has to solve this problem. You watch a little 30-second video clip of what a cannonball into the water looks like if you've never seen one before. Chapter 1. It was a hot summer day. Chris was at the town pool with all his friends. He was fooling around and making them laugh. "Guess what I am?" he shouted. Then he floated on his back and spouted water. "A whale!" cried Tommy. He copied Chris. So did the other kids. Chris was the biggest and silliest of all the second graders. Chris was so big and so silly that he seemed to have no fear. But he was afraid of something, and it was a secret. Chris was afraid of the deep end of the town pool. He could swim in deep water. That was no problem, but he just could not jump into it. He was afraid that if he did, he would not come up again. Chris went swimming all summer long, but he never told anyone his secret. One day he was at the pool with his friends. They were doing cannonballs off the diving board. "Come on, Chris," said Billy. "You're so big, you'll make the biggest splash of all." Chris swam quickly to the shallow end and got out. "Watch," he cried. "This is even better. A twirl bomb." Chris twirled and did a cannonball into the shallow end of the pool. He made a big splash and jumped up. The other kids laughed. They came down to the shallow end and copied Chris's twirl bomb. Chris wanted to keep everyone at the shallow end, so he invented another cannonball, the buzz bomb. He buzzed like a dive bomber, bzzz, and jumped into the pool. He invented the bear bomb, too. He roared like a bear as he jumped. Then he invented the popcorn cannonball. He hopped up and down at the edge of the pool like popcorn popping in a hot pan. He cried as he jumped into the pool. All the kids laughed, and then they all copied Chris's funny cannonballs. They never knew what Chris was staying at the shallow end on purpose. They didn't know that that's what he was doing. Chapter 2. A few days later, Chris got a letter in the mail. It was an invitation to Tommy's birthday party. It said, "Swim party, bring your bathing suit." Chris called Tommy on the phone to say he could come. "Great," said Tommy. "There's going to be a cannonball contest off the diving board. You'll probably win." That night, Chris had a nightmare. He dreamed that he was at Tommy's party. He was standing on the diving board. Everyone was waiting for him to jump. "Jump, jump, jump," they yelled. Chris didn't want to do it, but he had to. Down he went. His feet never touched bottom. He was falling into a dark, endless pit. "Help!" he cried. Chris woke up in a sweat. His father came into his room and sat down on Chris's bed. "What's the matter?" he asked. "Oh, I had a terrible dream," said Chris. He told his father about it. "Everyone's afraid of something," said his father. "You're afraid of deep water. How do you think you can solve this problem?" Chris shivered. By not going to Tommy's party?" he said. His dad smiled. He said, "I have a better idea. Tomorrow I'll tell you about the dirt road bear." "What's that?" asked Chris. "That's what I was afraid of once," said his dad. Chapter 3. The next day, Chris and his dad drove to the state park. They rented a canoe and paddled around the lake. "When I was little," said Chris's dad, "I was afraid of dirt roads. I thought bears lived on them. So my dad took me out into the country. He had me sit on a rock at the beginning of a dirt road. When I am out of sight," he said, "count to 100, then follow me." Then he walked down the road until I couldn't see him anymore. Well, I counted to 100. I was really scared. I hated to walk down that road alone. I was sure bears were waiting to jump out at me. But somehow I did it. And at the end of the road, I saw my dad. I ran up and hugged him. "I am very proud of you," he said. I felt so brave, and I was never afraid of dirt roads again. "Did you see a bear?" asked Chris. "Not a one," said his father. "My dad said there weren't any." He was right. Chapter 4. Chris thought about his dad's story. After a while, he and his dad returned the canoe. Then they walked past the state park swimming pool. Part of the trick is to name your fear. I named mine the Dirt Road Bear, said Chris's dad. What do you call yours? The underwater pit, said Chris. I'm afraid that if I jump into it, I'll never come out. He and his dad were quiet. Then his dad said, If you want to try now, I'll catch you. I'll be in the water waiting. Chris was nervous, but he said okay. A few minutes later, he stood at the end of the diving board. He felt sick. Count to 3 and jump, said his dad. 1, 2, 3, said Chris. He jumped off the board. He felt dark fear and water all around him. He was going straight down into the pit. Then he felt his father's strong arms. Now try it again, said his father. This time, jump in with your arms up. When you are in the water, pull your arms down. You'll pop up like a cork. Chris stood on the diving board again. I don't think I'll pop up like a cork, he said. I think I'll go down into the pit like a rock. If you do, I'll pull you up, said his dad. Trust me. Chris put up his arms and jumped. His body dropped through the water. He pulled his arm down to his sides. Splash! Up he popped. You did it, said his dad. Chris had never felt happier. I'm going to do that again, he said. Chris jumped off the diving board 10 more times. Now I'm going to sit on the edge of the pool, said his dad. You don't need me anymore. For a moment, Chris was scared. Then he had an idea. I'm going to do a cannonball, he said. Chris stood at the back of the diving board. His dad sat on the edge of the pool. Chris ran and jumped in. In the air, he pulled his feet up and held them with his arms. He made a splash so big, his dad got all wet. There is no underwater pit, Chris said on the way home. I know, said his dad. I am proud of you. Chris was proud of himself, too. But somewhere inside him was a little worry. What about Tommy's pool? His dad wouldn't be with him at the party. I wish you could come to Tommy's party with me, said Chris. His father smiled. You'll be okay, he said. You'll see. Chapter 5. The day of the party came. All the kids were swimming in Tommy's pool. They were having a great time, except for Chris. His old fear was back. He kept on thinking, maybe there's an underwater pit in Tommy's pool. And he knew the cannonball contest would be starting soon. Then Tommy's mother held up a huge squirt gun. Whoever does the best cannonball off the diving board wins this, she said. Me first, called everyone, except Chris. Tommy is first, said his mother. He's the birthday boy. The rest of you line up behind him. Chris was last in line. Tommy gave a big jump. He was small. His cannonball was small, too. Freddie did a flip cannonball. He landed on his side. Billy ran and jumped so fast that he did a belly flop. Rosie did a twirl cannonball. It was only so-so. Watch me, said Sally. She ran and jumped way out into the pool. She went farther than anyone. "That was pretty good," said Billy. "Watch Chris," said Tommy. "He'll do one of his funny dives." Chris stood at the back of the board. He kept telling himself what his father had said. People always pop up like corks. Tommy, Billy, Freddie, Rosie, and Sally had all popped up, right? Right. "This is a special combination Buzz Bear bomb," said Chris. He ran down the board, buzzing like a dive bomber. He jumped into the air and grabbed his legs. He roared. Then he hit the water with a giant splash. Down he went. Quickly, he pulled his arms to his sides. His body shot up. His head popped out of the water. "Oh, you win!" everyone shouted. Chris climbed out of the pool. Tommy's mother gave him the prize squirt gun. It was already filled with water. Chris squirted everyone except Tommy's mother. Then he squirted the diving board. "Take that," he said. "I'm the Cannonball King." The author of this book, Jean Marzollo, is quite famous. She's in educational research, got a graduate degree from Harvard University. For 20 years, she worked for a publishing company, and she's the author of about 100 books for young readers. This book is based on a true story because her son Dan knew a friend who used this cannonball trick at a party, and Jean Marzollo made a book out of it. So that's the end of this chapter book, Cannonball Chris, written by Jean Marzollo, and the illustrations are by Blanche Sims.